Kelly Royale was the woman of my dreams. Her flawless pale skin captivated every guy in my grade in the sight of her image. Even just mentioning her name brought the ravings from each other of us in the lockers room, bragging on about how much we'd bone her if given the chance. Alas, it was just another dream of your typical hormonal high school boy. To actually meet a celebrity like her was highly unlikely, even if she had grown up in our hometown. I wasn't really into her music. Pop wasn't exactly my realm of taste, but with Kelly, I indulged her into angelic voice and sexy movements on camera. Her baby blue eyes stood in front of the makeup and blush, and her strawberry blonde hair trickled down from her perfect face and shoulders. Each new glamour shot, every new video, only made by more delighted to see her. I wasn't a stalker type, though let's make that clear. It's just every guy has their ideal woman that she'll fit the bill for a tea for me. When she won the title of Venus of the Year, I was even more ecstatic. Kelly Royale had a frown following, sure, but with this, she'd be pushed into the spotlight even more, which meant I'd get to go see her around even more. And see her, I did. Playboy with her at least at last dying breath. Managed to bring her on for a couple of photos. I'm sure I wasn't the only guy into my grade pop to a few bones, although I wasn't degenerate enough to be looking at her in class. But when I did see her, I was enraptured. That was the same bright hair, perfect breasts, slim legs, and those arousing eyes. How I prayed for a girl like her to be mine. The spotlight certainty wanders for her, and eventually rumors began spread about her. On one more positive side of the whispers, it was said that Kelly had accepted an offer from a certain doctor about having a new kind of plastic surgery done. Apparently, he's not any actual plastic used in surgeries. The term meant is just reshaping from an old Greek word. But if those rumors were true, this doctor had invented new kind of artificial skin, one that would at least stay moldable thanks to the heat given off by the body or something. I didn't really understand what most of the details, but internally preserved beauty was definitely in my vocabulary. Sure enough, after a few weeks of silence, Ms. Royale made a special appearance on a late-night talk show. They advertised it to the whole week prior, so I made damn sure to stay up to see her. And she somehow became even more perfect, and the outfit she wore was barely allowable on live TV. Kelly explained that she wanted to show off as much as her surgery's effects as she could, and she was not holding back. The audience roared and cheered and whistled, and I had to keep my own voice down as to not alert my parents of what I was watching. When the show host asked her about the procedure, Kelly had just smiled a delected finger to her lips. She said she couldn't really talk much into depth about it, other than a few scant facts. The host was allowed to touch her forearm, and he had reportedly felt that it was the smoothest skin on earth. Then, within her next revelation, Kelly shocked everyone. Nearly every inch of her skin has been replaced. There were murmurs in the crowd for a moment. I swallowed slightly. My imagination had gotten quite good from practice. But in all that moment I could see was Kelly lying on the surgical table, muscles exposed and blood flowing from the edges on multiple places. Twitching in pain, her eyes stared up at me, pleading for help. I was snapped back into reality as Kelly reassured everyone that she was totally fine and the procedure was completely painless, and that she could just live as comfortably as before. The host even joked that she was the world's first living Barbie doll. This worked all well comfort while watching, and as I fought behind those blue eyes, I could make out well of sadness for something else. But even that was a little presumptuous for me, and I disregarded that thought as quickly as it came for the moment. When I asked the other guys at school the next day if I had noticed anything though, one of them suggested that one of the most sinister rumors might have been true. Apparently there was reports of floating around that a few guys had pretty much killed themselves recently over not being able to be with her. Comparisons were being thrown around with that Boardrug stalker from a few years back, but there was no evidence directly indicating that Kelly Royale was the reason they took their lives. Regardless, you can imagine in my utter shock of seeing her on my way home one day from school. She was just standing there, gawking at the building. Her forlorn gaze and bit-scarred lip told me that she was upset, that I probably shouldn't bother the celebrity. But this was Kelly Royale, my idol. One person I wanted to meet her more than any. "Miss Royale, are you okay?" was the only thing I say between stutters. She didn't respond, continues to stare at the school like a zombie. I decided to take a risk. I reached for her arm and tugged softly. Her skin was truly divine. I never felt something so soft before. If it wouldn't have been so weird. I'd wish I hold her hand for days on end, enjoying the texture of Palm's embrace. I tried to memorize the feeling for personal use later. Gazing up at her again, though, for the first time her eyes did not bring me comfort. They terrified me, wide and horrific, piercing through my own and delivering a strange terror to my heart. She looked deathly afraid, whatever of me or something else I couldn't tell. Their bloodshot nature spoke at the lengths of her lack of sleep, and she almost seemed to gasp for breath. "Miss Royale?" I stammered again, trying to break her free of her trance while trying to take a step back. Finally, her 1,000-yard stare ended, and she began to take notice of my presence. "Oh, my apologies. Do you go here?" She pointed at my bag. I nodded. "I see. You know a lot has changed since I used to go here." She trailed off, biting her lip again, before giving me a smile. "You call me Miss Royale. I take it you're a fan?" I tried to hide the blush, but it was impossible. I nodded quickly. She grinned and then looked around strangely, and reached into her coat for my pen. My heart stopped for a moment before my body jumped, and my arms started scrambling through my book bag for the first piece of paper I could find for her. Quickly she snatched down an autograph after asking for my name. Then she handed the paper back to Warren to study how live hard and long life, Miss Royale. I went to thank her, but her hand on my cheek put me at pause again. It was gentle and kind. Something about it grasped my jawline and felt forced, almost desperate. The comfort of the perfect skin clashed against the mere shakes came from her grasp. I wanted to say that she simply giggled and replied to my unspoken gratitude. "You're welcome." Then without another word, she turned and walked away. I was possibly one of the last few people to see her alive. Kelly Royale wandered onto oncoming traffic downtown and died at the scene. Witnesses claimed that she had seemed rather distracted as she stepped out onto the road, so it was hard to tell if it was intentional or not. At least she had passed away in her hometown. It made a funeral and burial easier. All of my friends were distraught about it. I didn't dare show them the autograph. At least not yet. Just it didn't seem right. Besides, I was upset too. Seeing her writing would only bring out the tears. About a week later after her funeral, I was still depressed about the whole ordeal. The memory of our meeting repeated in my head over and over, causing me to turn in my bed night after night. Lying down in the particular night, the images coming to me unfolded. Those damn baby blues stuck out most, no matter what I did. All I saw when I tried to rest was her haunting stare. A foul stench forced me to wake up from whatever I was sleeping, and I was beginning to attain. The sight of it came to me and kept falling back to me into slumber. As much as I desired it, standing at the edge of the bed was a naked Kelly Royale. Her pristine skin shone in the beams of light that made her way through the window, and normally I'd be very excited. But as time passed, I began to realize what was wrong with this image. First, I recalled that Kelly was dead, so a horrible smell freaked me out even more as I came to the conclusion that a zombie was standing at the foot of my bed. I then noticed the cracks all over her body were countless lines and chips, all brown oil slipping out from between the edges of the stained and ghastly white skin, around her major joints. The cracks were far larger, and massive drops of sludge pooled down before falling into my bedroom floor with a loud splat. The rubber that had kept her beauty intact had grown cold and hard from the lack of human heat, and it was now splintering as this corpse moved about. Her hair, her once silky, flowing, now tangled and stringy, covered half of her disfigured face. Her blue eyes could not be seen, now replaced with empty sockets that seemed to pulse around the exterior. She breathed slowly with a disgusting gurgle that matched the sound of a sick person vomiting. I pulled my blanket up to my nose. Both tried to hide from the monster and tried to cover the stink. Miss? I stuttered again, but this time I could not finish. I held back a scream as the creature made horrific noises. It's like it was trying to clear its throat before it spoke. "Warren," it croaked. "Forgive me." "Forgive her? Forgive her for what?" He sent me back. I brushed those boys off. I didn't know. My ignorance would make them... Oh, God, please forgive me." Kelly's corpse moaned and wailed as her hands slowly drifting to her body. I could hear one at the side of the stomach crack and pop. Shortly after, that tube of meat slung itself out, dangling from the hole. I swallowed my own vomit, too afraid to make any sudden movements, lest this thing attacked me. What are you doing here? I gave you the autograph. I need to atone. There were many men who wanted me, and now I must show them my true self. Don't you love me, Warren? Don't you all love me?" She began to grapple her breast, unable to squeeze it as it lost all of its softness along with her life. I could only stare at the disturbed, intrigued as she grew desperate and squeezed harder, shattering her skin like a porcelain doll, letting more of the rotting flesh and congealated blood ooze from the new exit. The cracks spread as she tried to dance, whispered over and over again, asking for me to want her. A glass-glow smile resulted in her jaw dropping to the floor, quite literally leaving her undead tongue swinging open. Then she began to crawl into the bed. I couldn't hold myself back any longer. I screamed and kicked for her to get off of me, but she would not retreat. The stench only grew stronger, and it clung to my hands as I slapped and punched her repeatedly. My feet pushed my blanket upwards, trying to hit her abdomen, but Kelly's advance was relentless. Despite not having much, her pleas persisted. She moved her head beside mine as her intestines wormed out their way out of her stomach and onto my lap. My nose twitched at her filthy hair, and groaned in immense discomfort as her hanging tongue lapped against my ear. A recollection of pus and sludge pooled in my ear canal, and the zombie placed its hand in my stomach, tapping around for something more sensitive. That was the last straw. Without mercy, I grabbed Kelly Royale by her hair and yanked her back, only to pull a chunk out. The monster growled in anger at this, but I didn't care. I swung my fist upwards to her stomach, breaking through instantly, and leaving my hand to rest in a slivering pile of guts. Kelly brought her face to meet mine, almost as if to ask what I had done, before the cracks overtook every part of her body. All at once, the greatest model on earth collapsed before my tear-flooded eyes, falling into a pile of mushy organs and shards of dark skin. Now Kelly Royale is the woman of my nightmares. What's up, my pretties? It's the Lion Queen here. I want to appreciate you all for tuning into this video, and I do appreciate you guys supporting my video by giving this video likes and stuff. If you really enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like, comment and subscribe if you're new, ring the bell for notifications to when I upload so that way you guys will get updated for whenever I upload. If you want to follow me on Twitter or DeviantArt, feel free to leave a follow on those if you are interested in following me on those socials. If you want to support my backup channel, known as Miss Dark Shigo, feel free to subscribe to it, as a link to that will also be in the About page section. And with that being said, and that being the case, thank you so much for watching, my pretties, and as always, stay pretty.